Hi friends, in this video we'll create RESTful web service and test it through Postman. So first let's create a package with name controller, and in this package I'll create a class that will act as our REST controller. I'll name it as flight controller. And I will annotate this with @REST controller. And you can see that this is basically nothing but a combination of two annotations, that is controller and response body. If you are aware of Spring MVC, you would have used @controller, right? So basically what it does is it takes all the requests and then sends back the data in the response. So if you see the REST controller, what exactly the response body is, it tells that the data that will be sent from the methods of the controller class that will be placed in the HTTP response body. Okay, and that's what this REST controller means. That means it has main two annotations, that is @controller and @response body. Okay, so next what we are going to do is we'll add our create, read, update, delete, that is CRUD methods. And we know that we can use HTTP verbs, that is get, post, put and delete. So what we are going to do is for each we'll create one method, and that will be our CRUD operation basically. So let's start with get. So I'll do is public. I'll name it as and for now I'll just return a string, and get flight, and I'll just return it as a plain text here, get method invoked. Okay, and this is nothing but our get method, HTTP get method. And what does this do is this just does the read operation. Okay, and similarly I'll have other methods also. I'll have the same signature, a similar signature, like I'll say create, and for create we use HTTP post method, and that is basically used for create operation, right? Okay, and the same we have for put method, that does the update. Okay, and I'll put this as put method invoked, and I'll say this as update, and here I'll rename it to post method invoke. And finally we'll have one more is for delete, and that is nothing but HTTP delete method, and what it does is delete operation. And here what I'm going to do is I'll rename this to delete flight, and I'll return a delete text. So now for a request to be made or this method to be invoked, we need to add mapping. Okay, and that mapping can be added at the class level or at the method level. So what we're going to do is we are going to add it at the method level. And the annotation we can use is, there are basically two types of annotation for mapping. One is request mapping, which allows you to enter multiple methods. I'll show you how to do that. If you're using request mapping, okay, request mapping, and you can see that we have multiple options here. And if you see that there is path or method, these two we can use. For method, if you use this, takes an array, and if you say that you want to call this method for all the get request, and as well as for any other method, you can use it by declaring that method type. So basically request mapping is used when you have multiple methods that you want to invoke one particular method, that is get flight in case. Okay, but in our case, what we have is we have HTTP GET method. Okay, and we want, whenever a GET method is sent in the request, we want to invoke GET flight. Okay, so for that, what we'll do is we'll use this specific GET mapping annotation. So what it will do is it will basically it has nothing but it has, you can see the method request mapping method is GET. Okay, so it internally it's again uses request mapping. So fine, next we are going to specify the path, and you can see there are multiple options here, right? We are going to use all those options in our future sessions, but for now we are interested in is the path. Okay, so path, and here I'll give it as flight flight. So any invocation with path flight, and if the method is GET, it should invoke this method. Okay, GET flight method. In the same way, what we will do is we'll add the mapping for all other methods. We'll have for post, we have post mapping, and here I'll use the same path, but you can use different path too. Okay, and same way here I'll copy paste, and here we have @put mapping, and the same way we have for delete mapping. Okay, and annotation, perfect. Now you can see that we have a very simple RESTful web service ready. What we have done, we have added REST controller annotation at the class level, and we have mappings annotation at the method level. So any request that you make with path and that has a request method GET, then that particular this GET flight method will be invoked. And similarly, we have, if it is post, put, or delete, okay, the method type, then, and the path is flight. In this case, we have kept the path as all same. So, but you can change it if whatever you want, like create flight or update flight and delete flight. But for example, to keep it simple, what I have done is I have used the same path. So now let's test this. Okay, we'll test this through Postman. So let's first open Postman, and we'll also do is we'll start the application first. So right click on the application and click on run as. I'll run this as Spring Boot app. Let's see the console. And you can see that the port number the application started is 8080, and it is using Tomcat 9 version. Okay, so application is up. So what we are going to do is let's go to Postman, and in the collections, I'll create a new collection and I'll name it as flight, and I'll create it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a request here, and I'll name it as get and save it. And in the get, now here you can see that you can edit the URL, and here what I'm going to do is HTTP flight. This is localhost. Okay, I have localhost 8080 and followed with the path that we have given in our method mapping. Okay, so next if we hit on, and you can see that the method here type is get. So when I click on send, then I'm making a request to my get method here, get flight method. So in return, what should I get? I should get method invoked in my response body. And you can see that I have a response here. This is my response body basically. Okay, and if you have a request, then you can have this as your request. Okay, but this is a get, so we don't have a request body. So let's click on send and see what happens. And you can see that in my response, I got in the body, I got get method invoked. Cool. So if you go to in a headers, you can see that you have different parameters here. It says content type as text plain. Okay, and the status is 200, that means okay, and the response time. Perfect. So let's do the same for other methods also. Let's copy this, let's duplicate it, and I'll rename this to post, and here I'll change the type to post, and here HTTP localhost, and if I click on send, let's see what happens. You can see the post method is invoked. Okay, even though the path is same, but changing just the method type, it recognizes the particular method and invokes it. Okay, so I'll save this, and I'll do the same for put and delete. Let's do that, and I'll rename this to put, and here I'll change it to put method, and if I click on send, again you can see that again I got the response from the put method. And same, I'll do it for delete. I'll rename this to delete, and I'll change the type to delete, and if I say send, and I get the response. So you can see that how simple it was, to create a RESTful web services. It was just, using a few of the Spring annotations, and using Postman, we tested the RESTful web services. So this is very simple and basic RESTful web service. But there are a lot of, to make this in a real time, there are a lot of components that are added on top of this. Okay, we'll see that in our next sessions, but for now that's all for this video, and I will see you in the next session.